Hey, Soraya, how's it going?
All right. How about you?
I'm doing great. I have two options for you today of a topic that we can discuss.
Okay.
Either nothing or everything.
Oh, everything sounds very, very good. Why
Yeah.
don't you let our listeners know what we mean by everything?
Well, this was prompted by a discussion that the three of us, you, myself, and our very frequent co-host Ronnie Barnett, we were talking about the Bangles, and Ronnie had mentioned that the album Everything is very underrated, and there's some quotes that we'll throw out that he's been saying a little bit later. But we figured we need to discuss this from his point of view because, in my opinion, this is my least favorite of their albums, and Ronnie holds it in much higher regard. So I thought it'd be very interesting to pull him on. We thought it'd be very interesting to get his perspective, right?
Absolutely. And I don't know. Buckle up. This is going to be a fun one.
I think so.
So let's get started.
Hi, this is Soraya.
And this is Jeff.
Our podcast is called Paisley Stage Raspberry and Rhyme,
A podcast where the two of us play music that we like and share anecdotes and background about the tunes.
We hope you'll join our conversation. And without further ado, a groovear.
Let's get groovy.
No, I'm just joking.
Yeah. I don't mean to be the guy that's on the hot seat here.
Oh, excuse me, Jeff.
Yep.
You recognize
that,
Ronnie?
I do. I gave that to Jeff Soraya. I'm sorry. I should have given it to you.
No. It's in a good home.
Yeah.
I
can visit it from time to time.
There you go.
So Jeff, for our listeners joining us, this is the one and only, the great legend, Ronnie Barnett.
Swoon.
Keep them coming. Keep those descriptions coming, Soraya.
All right.
Thanks for having me, you guys, as always.
Now, we've alerted the listeners that we're here to discuss that album right there, the Bangles, Everything. Okay, so I want to share with you what, and Jeff, don't be prejudicial yet. Okay, so let me just share a quote from a review. All right, but Ronnie, really, you need to explain to us why this is an underrated album. So this is from Robert Christgau. Says, this time they're serious. They wrote all the songs themselves, got two about suicide, one about a complicated girl, a historical thing about glitter, and 8, love songs, but serious. Okay, he only rated the album a B-. Rolling Stone gave a similar-ish review saying strong music, lyrics, and then this is from another review. Everything is a work dominated by compromises, but at the very least, it allowed the Bangles a shade more freedom and autonomy than Different Light. And of the two, it's easily the better album, though it still fails well short of the promise of their first recordings. Do you agree with that or disagree?
I'm gonna go home. That's all it needs to be said. Thanks, Soraya.
All right. Okay, Ronnie. So why are we talking about this album?
First off, I haven't been on one of these with you guys where we just break down a record. This is interesting. I'm used to asking people questions.
Exactly. Yeah, this is.
Before we get into the record, I want to show you guys a couple of things here.
All right.
One, Jeff, you'll like this, Jeff, because you're a Beatles person. This is the French cover. Oh.
Wait, what?
Sorry.
Oh my gosh.
Look at that.
No.
It's legit. It's legit too. I'll show you the label. It's
Oh wow.
CBS. Yeah. Why they went with that, I couldn't tell you, but
Oh my gosh.
You recognize that graphic.
Oh yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my God.
Anyway,
okay, now I want that.
Yeah,
And then just to
I want that
see,
too.
you want it. You guys that are so anyway. I just want to tell a little background story. So I was and remain huge Bangles fan, right? And at the time, I of course was working in a record store. I was friends. That was back in the day when you'd have reps from all the labels, and they would come give you promos and put up displays in the store and all that kind of thing. So I was friends with all of them, of course. And at the time, Columbia um, would get their promos exactly a week before release date. Okay. So my guy knew I was a huge Bangles fan. I was waiting on this record. Um, and the week before, the Bangles were actually starting a tour opening for George Michael, who was doing stadiums at the time. Okay. So this would be late 1988. So before jumping on this tour, they hadn't played for a while. They decided to do a club show in Houston, my hometown. Okay. This is 1 week before the release date. So I got the record that day. And it's kind of a long story how I got backstage. They didn't want anybody backstage. And at that time I was wearing a hat. It was part of just something I did. I should go back to wearing hats, with my hairline and everything these days. But so I was wearing a hat, and I guess always visible in the crowd. And the Columbia guy, Sue, said, "Where's my friend with the hat?" Just out loud. And my friend's like, "That's my friend Ronnie. You want me to get him?" Because I was still hanging out. And so I got backstage, whatever. And so I had a copy of the record. They had not seen the record yet. So this copy, which you can see is nicely signed by them, was not only, this is the first copy they ever saw of the record.
Wow.
Whoa.
It's this very copy. Yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, so that's my copy of everything. Yeah. So anyway, that's just a personal story of interest. So getting to the record. What was the question again, Soraya?
Why are we talking about this album?
Because we were talking about this record because no one talks about this record, and it's baffled me since then. Like it's their third record. It's the one where they really like went for it on this record. Like because you guys are familiar with the catalog. All Over the Place is like unbelievable record, right? And it's like, but it's like the early Bangles just, going for it there as the band they were, as the band they started at and got signed and did, right? So obviously after that record, they wanted to go commercial, and they did, right? So Different Light is like, a quarter of the songs are written by other people. Of course, we know Manic Monday, Prince, blah, blah, blah. And it worked, right? It was a commercial success. They toured that record for like 2 years. And for better or worse, it worked. I mean, walk like an Egyptian. I mean, that's very far away from getting out of hand, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So and again, I'm speculating with all this. I don't know, but my interpretation is like, because I remember the last time, again, they came through town like 3 times after Different Light, and in town, I mean in Houston. I was still in Houston. And I remember the last tour, they each played a new song. Each member did one new song that they presented, and they're all on this record. Sue was "I'll Set You Free," Vicky's was "Crash and Burn," Debbie's was "Be With You," and Michael's was "Glitter Years." And so I think like after Different Light, and it's it's well known how hard David Kahn was, the producer, on them making that record and everything. And I think they decided, look, we want to make a band record. We want to be involved with the writing of every song in some capacity. And we want to be the record is like almost evenly split, right? And I think of course not every song is great, but I think most songs are actually great on this record. And I think it's more of a band record than definitely more of a band record than Different Light. And there's also little things we can get into. I mean, this is like Michael Steele's coming out party on this record. I mean, her 3 songs are incredible on this record. You know, on Different Light, look, she sang a lazy cover. All right. September Girls. Sorry, it's a lazy
Okay,
cover.
we're not going to talk about that.
Yeah. And then, you know, and then there's Following, which I guess is a good song. I don't know. That song's always baffled me a little bit. Again, I guess it's good. But anyway, we can get to the nooks and crannies of this record, but that's just kind of a brief kind of synopsis. I see this as a real band effort and them really trying to create I know you guys joke when I call this their Sergeant Peppers, but it kind of is. Like there's all sorts of things on here. There's strings and there's the different arrangements and really complex stuff going on this record.
Okay, Jeff. So Ronnie's made a pretty good case. Now you titled this episode Sergeant Pepper or Private Pyle. Surprise, surprise, surprise. Now, what's your view of this album?
So I didn't realize what I really liked about some of the music that I liked, Soraya, until we first started doing the podcast. And you actually brought to light something, a characteristic about some of the music that I like that I've never realized until we started having discussions. And that was the fact that grittiness and a little bit of roughness. And that's something that I really liked about like some of the early Bangles stuff and the garagey feel that they had. By this time with this album, and this is my least favorite of their whole catalog, including Doll Revolution and their latest record. But this is my least favorite, and it's because it's so clean. It's so pure. It doesn't, to me, it does. There's no grittiness to it at all. I like the album. It's not that I don't like it, but in their discography, this is my least favorite because it just seems too crystalline, like too pure, there's no grittiness to it. Even with Different Light that I would hear. And I thought, Ronnie, for sure the reason why you liked it was because there's some Kiss connections.
We'll get into that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. But for me, it's just too pure. There's no, it doesn't have enough grittiness to it. Enough I don't know, street, I guess you would say, where you would hear for sure on the EP and even more and all over the place. Even I feel like even the newer releases have a little bit of that this record doesn't have.
Well, I think that's an interesting point because you can also question or wonder, is that kind of symptomatic of where they were with the label and at the time? Because when you listen to the album, there's a lot of things that are very symptomatic of the time, like certain sounds, certain arrangements. It's like, oh yeah, that's an 80s record. But some of the lyrics are, I argue with a Rolling Stones review. I think some of the lyrics are really, really good. And the writing is turning away from others and letting them have a voice. So to me, there's something there. Now, I do want to bring up this whole Kiss connection, and you guys can, jump off on that. But I think some of the musicians brought on to add to this album they're curious to me now, looking back on it, but I think it was pretty interesting. So they bring in like Paulinho da Costa, who's a percussionist, who's working like Earth, Wind, and Fire. Sergio Mendes, and he's on this album. David Lindley, El Rayo X, but on. And then looking at some of the other writers, there's some interesting additions here. So, and then we've got the whole issue of Vinnie Vincent. So, Ronnie,
yeah, well,
does Vinnie Vincent being on this album and playing that 12 string, does that make or break this album? Does it add anything to it?
Before we get to that, let's backtrack about some of the stuff that's been said since I spoke.
Okay, go.
First off, this album came out in 1988. Every major label record has 80s production. All of them. Bob Dylan, whatever, like
Right,
everybody.
right.
That's just that's just the way it was. Like my friend Jim has a saying about the late 80s that we had bands that kind of got us through the 80s. Bands like 3 O'Clock is one of them, like Jason and the Scorchers, you know, the Godfathers. Like there were these bands that kind of got us through that stuff that were kind of, anyway. And Jeff, yeah, if you're looking for a rock and roll record, this is not it. So I mean, I'm a song guy. So I mean, the songs on here are like, I mean, Sing Doll Revolution is better than this record is just, that's ridiculous. In my estimation. And that's just pound for pound songwriting. Again, I don't want to offend anybody of my friends that might be watching this, who may or may not be in the band. Anyway, so that's why I'm drawn to this record. I mean, because I think the songwriting for the most part is just stellar. Even Debbie's contributions, like the bridges on both those songs are tremendous. Whether you like those songs or not, you got to give it up for the bridge.
Agreed. Yes.
And then I forgot what else I was going to say. Gomer Pyle reference. That's an old reference for the audience at this point. If you didn't know, Gomer Pyle, folks, was a show about a guy who had a very high pitched country voice, except when he sang. And yes, he would sing. He would sing on the show. Yeah, which is unbelievable. Anyway, Soraya, to get to Vinnie Vince, like, okay, there's a lot of hired gun songwriting wise on this record, right? Like Tom Kelly and Billy Steinberg, I think, co-wrote all Susanna songs or with her. And then somehow Vicky got paired up with Vinnie Vincent on a song here. And I gotta say, that might be my least favorite song on the record. I not because it's Vinnie Vincent, just anyway. Look, Vinnie Vincent, he was one of those guys. He was one of those songwriting guys that was trying to sell songs at the time. There were a lot of them. Does it sound like a Kiss song? No.
Well, would you?
And then what's the other Kiss connection, Jeff?
Oh, the producer. So the producer, David Sigerson.
Yeah.
What's that?
No. I always wondered how to pronounce his name because it's spelled Davitt.
Yeah. So is it David?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. But he also co-wrote a song with Gene Simmons from Crazy Nights. Good Girl Gone Bad. So yeah, so there's the Gene and the Vinnie Vincent connection, but
it all leads back to Kiss, or
always.
Right.
And then another thing I want to comment on, it was on what you said, sorry, about all the people, the percussion, all the different people that play on the record. Look, they didn't for this record, they didn't need somebody to play, bar chords through a fuzz box. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah. Like they're so they need a little percussion here. They use for better or worse, they utilize that stuff. And there are definitely parts that are overproduced within an inch of their lives. Even on like Complicated Girls, one of my favorite songs on the record, and it's got a lot of overproduction on it. I think it works though. I don't know if we're getting into specific songs here.
We can.
Yeah.
So, but I found your one of your initial observations interesting about the division. So Susanna Hoffs has 4 songs. Michael has 3. Vicky has
4.
1, 2, 3. Yeah, 4, and Debbie has 2.
Yeah.
So it's pretty interestingly divided.
Well, the thing about that too, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the B-side of Eternal Flame. It's a song called What I Meant to Say.
Right.
That's a Debbie, was written by Debbie and Vic. That's a Debbie song, and it's arguably would be one of the best songs on the record if it was on the record. That's a great song.
And I believe it was recorded in the same session along with another track. I think there was another one as well.
There are 2 that didn't make it. Yeah.
Okay. Same session, I believe.
Yeah. It's interesting. Who knows what went into those? Well, I've been on the other side of some of those decisions where you're deciding what makes the record and not. And sometimes the best songs don't make it on for whatever reason. So,
Why would that be, Ronnie? Like, in what situation would you leave off like some of the better tracks?
it's generally because it doesn't fit the
Okay.
hall as well,
Okay.
in somebody's opinion. You know what I
Okay.
mean? So that's generally what happens.
So there is that track "Around the World" by the 3 O'clock that didn't make it onto the 16 Tambourines album. It's one of my favorite 3 O'clock album songs, rather. But it
Right.
really it doesn't fit on that album, to be honest. But it's a great song.
Yeah, that's why that generally happens. But yeah, maybe it'll be on the reissue, the 16 Tambourines, which is coming.
Mm, things are popping out here today,
I know,
Ronnie.
I know we're not. Yeah, I know we're not
He's a
supposed to talk
wealth
about
of
that.
information. I'm
Yeah.
gonna okay, well, let's talk about this then. This cohesive whole of 13 songs. Okay.
Yeah.
So Jeff, you're the guy that always likes to look at the tracks, the listing. Do you think In Your Room should have started out this album?
Yeah, I do think that that's a good opening track, and it definitely gets the album going. And I just want to be clear that I like this album. I just don't think that it is underrated or needs a lot of discussion. It's a good album. I'm just surprised that Ronnie calls it their Sergeant Pepper's, but it makes sense to me when you're talking about the effort that they put into it and the strings and all that. But yeah, definitely In Your Room is a good way to start this album, in my opinion.
And before we continue with the rest of the tracks, but I think it's interesting to just go back to something Ronnie's mentioned, and that is this album is posited between, so we've got all over the place, different light. I mean, the EP, all over the place, different light, and then we get to everything. And it's been this evolution back to kind of reclaiming their voice lyrically, of writing the songs themselves, because Different Light has so many songs that were just not written by them, and they were the ones that became huge and took off. And then this album, don't turn your back on it, because it had one of the biggest global hits, Bloody Eternal Flame. What, in 88, well, I was well out of high school, but what high school dance didn't have Eternal Flame? I mean, it was everywhere. Didn't matter where you traveled, Eternal Flame was on. A couple of weeks ago, I see Susanna Hoffs here in Los Angeles talking about her book. She does 4 songs. Any guess which one ended the night, folks? Eternal Flame. A nice acoustic version of her playing Eternal Flame, and Fred Armisen, playing the drums and on the cymbals. Oh my gosh. Jeff.
John Kalachi.
Thank you. John Kalachi playing the little finger cymbal.
Of course, Kalachi has to get involved.
I mean, but again, and then something I read that was interesting. This album, somebody in writing about it said this album mirrors Different Light. And so it was interesting to me to see this album, it's not chopped liver, but I think maybe people's expectations were different. Maybe being much more involved in the writing process, maybe some of the mojo got lost. I don't know.
No. Well, them coming off such a big record, I mean, obviously there's expectations that you're going to continue to do it. And yeah, Eternal Flame is a great song. I mean, it's not rock and roll, but it's a great song. I mean, I know people probably got sick of it, like you say. That song was everywhere. And then getting In Your Room was the first single.
Yeah.
By the way, and that's a great. Getting back to that, great first single and great opening song. Great opening song. And then you gotta love all the strings, the way that one ends with all the. I mean, yeah, I hate to keep saying ambitious, but I mean, I think they're really trying to make a band record, as opposed to something. I don't speculating on Different Light, how it's put together, but just, I I think it was conscious that they wanted to be involved with every song on this one. You know,
Yeah.
I think they had a lot to prove to themselves and to everyone else. Yeah.
Okay, moving. Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
I was just gonna say, Ronnie, so they brought in some co-writers on this to help them write some of the songs. Is that a concern or issue for you that they had these co-writers helping them write these songs?
No, I think I think they needed I think they probably needed the polish, to be honest. You know, the whole thing about having all that time to have the songs for your first record. I mean, you know, maybe my impression is because it was the way Different Light was, that they were not especially prolific writing songs. And you know, and that's kind of true with the records they've made on their own. Doll Revolution and the other one. I mean, those, they cover Elvis Costello. They cover songs on those records. I mean, you know, and besides Sue, I mean, there's been no solo albums. You know, it's always blown my mind. There's been no Vicky solo album. You know, Debbie had that project, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I just never got the impression that they were really that prolific writing songs. So, look, to have songs this good, that the help worked. All right.
All right.
Whoever that guy, Michael Steele, really becomes the George Harrison of the band on this record. And yeah, I've been saving that one. And whoever I didn't recognize the name of her co-writer, but I mean, you know, I'm gonna give the guy some credit.
All right.
Those sing Michael's band. She had a band called Crash Wisdom in the '90s that I saw.
Oh,
and great song. There were great songs. So Michael could write, you know.
Yeah, I don't think we can argue about that. For sure.
no,
Yeah.
absolutely not. So then the band takes a hiatus after this record. Do you think it was as a result of this record?
Yeah, you know, they were probably just sick of each other, I think.
Band dynamics.
Yeah, I mean, you know, they've been through a lot. I mean, it's hard to go through. It seems like, oh, they had hits and they were big, and then you're on top of the world. It's really like makes things really. I mean, not that I can speak with any experience, but there's a lot of hardship that goes with that too. It's hard to in my own case, I've always thought, like, if the Muffs had like a big hit and we had to like travel around for a year and, like, you know, fly from Australia back here to do the Grammys and fly back, and so I don't think we would have I wouldn't have held up. I don't think it's tough. So yeah, I think they're probably a little sick of that. There's probably some in band issues. Maybe somebody was being groomed to be a solo person and it rubbed the other ones the wrong way.
Yeah.
Maybe that person got a little more attention. Maybe that person was starring in movies. You know, and posing in a bikini on the poster for that movie, and you know, getting on covers of Spin, like it was just her on the cover of Spin. I mean, that kind of thing drives wedges into a band.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Believe me, I'm sure even the Doors got sick of seeing Jim Morrison everywhere, right? Like, friend of mine had John Dinsmore sign that first Doors album cover, and John Dinsmore like, oh yeah, look at this guy's big face on here. You know what I mean? Like, so, and this is like 40 years later. So, you know, yeah, I think they probably just needed a break. I mean, especially with all the pressure that comes with like having to follow up hits and be expected to do it again, and all the money involved. I mean, you know, who knows how much money they spent making this record. You know, they probably spent $1 million making this record. So yeah, again, speculating, but because they've never told us themselves. Maybe they'll write a book one day.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's happening.
Possibly. All right, we've got we've got a few minutes left. So
yeah,
I want to know, Ronnie,
Yes.
What is by far the best track of this 13? So just to walk through the listing, track 1, In Your Room, then Complicated Girl, Bell Jar, Something to Believe in, Eternal Flame, Be With You, Glitter Years, I'll Set You Free, Watching the Sky, Some Dreams Come True, Make a Play for Her Now, Waiting for You, and then Crash and Burn. What's the track people cannot skip?
Well, you know what I'd recommend, and then yeah, let's give Vicky some props here because Bell Jar and Watching the Sky are both. If you want some rock, Jeff, Watching the Sky is pretty heavy. It's built around that big riff, and it's got the big John Bonham drums. I hope that's Debbie drumming. So let's give Vicky some props. Those are the songs I would recommend to somebody. But you know, listening to this album last night, you know what song really like I really loved that kind of stood out, and this is a real wild card, was Something to Believe in.
Oh,
Yeah, I thought it was really beautiful, like really, really, really great. Yeah. So
and
again,
I love Michael's voice on that one. I have to
Yes.
say.
yeah, no, Michael's so great. So great. There's another one. Why did she make a solo album? Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that would have
Someone
been a
give
good
us her
album.
number. We'll ask.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
All right, Jeff, what's your track to not skip?
You know what? I love the last 3 seconds of Bell Jar when they just drop to their voice.
Right.
That is a great way to end the song. I've been listening to it the last couple days and preparing for this. And when it gets to that last part of Bell Jar, I really, really like the ending of that song quite a bit. So, I mean, you gotta wait 3 minutes and 15 seconds to get to it, but
That's a great song.
it is a good song. But my favorite part of the song is the last couple of minutes of it. But
Pure
yeah,
Vicky. That's pure Vicky too. Like that's not, you know what I mean? That doesn't sound like anybody. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead, Jeff.
no, that's it.
All right, what's the track to miss?
Wait, Soraya.
What?
What about yours?
Yeah. What's
Oh,
yours?
mine is
Sarah?
Crash and Burn.
Oh,
Wow.
Crash
Wow.
and Burn. It is not lost on anyone who's listened to us for what 100 and almost 190 episodes. Got mad love for Vicky
yes, you do.
and
Yeah.
Crash and Burn.
Oh, yeah.
I really like that track a lot. I mean, I love In Your Room. I always have.
Yeah.
And I love to try and imitate Susanna's voice. It never comes out like that, but I love Crash and Burn. So that's
Let's hear you sing it right now, Soraya.
Oh God, I gotta plug my nose and I gotta get nasally.
Okay.
Takes
Hey,
me
also
long.
props to Crash and Burn too, co-written with Rachel Sweet,
Yeah.
the great Rachel
mean-
Sweet.
They brought in some really good songwriters, and some people like those of us who grew up in the 70s would know Rachel Sweet, you know, just from her own career, but she's a damn good songwriter. And they brought her in, and I thought it was an interesting mix, and they brought out a great song. I like it a lot. Okay, track to skip over. Ronnie?
Me? Yeah. Yeah, I said it before. Make a play for her now. I just don't think it's that strong a song. I think I don't know. It sounds forced. Sounds like forced songwriting to me. I just invented that term.
Or songwriting.
It's like they took a bunch of like, these are the ways to write a song and just created that song like an AI thing.
Okay, Jeff.
I wouldn't miss Waiting for You. Sue's on here. I wouldn't miss that one being on here. In fact, I think Sue's songs, I think, on this particular release are the weak links for me.
What
Fair
I think
enough.
Waiting for You is her best vocal though, if that makes any sense.
Oh,
She
no.
really
Yeah.
really sings well on that song. Like she really
I would agree. Her voice is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. But as a song, to me, it's a little sleeper.
fair enough.
But yeah, her voice is amazing on there. Agreed. Soraya?
Yeah.
If I gotta pick, I'll Set You Free.
Okay. That's fair. That's on the lower end for me too.
But
So that probably would have been my next after Make a Play for Now. That probably would have been the one I would lose. Okay.
so question. If we're talking about, and let's not think about after everything, but all over the place, different light, everything. Where's your 1, 2, 3? Where would you put them in your own personal listing, Ronnie?
Me? All over the place, and then this one, and then Different Light.
Jeff?
Yeah.
In order that they were released. So all over the place, then Different Light than this one. And if
And I'm more apt to follow your lead there, Jeff. Just, I think, and that's just personal place. But
You know,
I
if I
think,
could interrupt for a second.
yeah, go ahead.
I do want to add that talking to Ronnie about this has definitely changed how I think about this, to be honest. So I knew
Okay.
like hearing a different perspective would I mean I want to go back and listen to it again after having this discussion, to be honest.
This is all I wanted. Everything I
Ronnie's
want,
just gonna
everything I
sign off
wanted,
now.
everything I wanted, to quote the Bangles. Yeah. Thank you, Jeff. That's all. I just think the record deserves more than just being dismissed. Most people dismiss it. Most people got sick of Eternal Flame and just, they lost the original rock crowd by then
Right.
anyway. You know what I mean? It's one of those situations. So, I don't know. I just think I hate this. It's always just baffled me that no one really pays respect to this record.
I
That's
definitely
all.
want that red cover cover.
Right.
I need to have that now.
Yeah.
Oh, I want that one.
Yeah.
I'm so jealous right now. Ridiculously.
I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah, I figured. I don't think most people know that exists, but I knew you'd go wild. I know you guys would go wild for that. That's why I pulled it out. I also want to mention that Cherry Pop through Cherry Red did their CDs like 10 years ago or 2012.
Oh,
So the CD of this has what I meant to say and a couple other songs on the record remix, but I recommend getting this version.
The Cherry
Not-
Red.
The Cherry Red, and that goes for all of them. Like Different Light is like a 2 CD set, you guys. Yeah. So they did them all, but I recommend searching those out if they're still available. Who knows? They could be. Cherry Red stuff tends to go out of print, so you only have the license for that long, so long, So
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't own any of the Cherry Red versions of any of these.
Get on it, Jeff.
I do. I need to.
Now we need them.
Especially, you can hear all these different mixes of walking down your street and stuff since you love that record so much. Maybe there's a mix of us standing in the hallway.
Ronnie.
Is that what it's called? I know. I'm sorry.
Oh, boys.
Fair enough.
Sorry.
So nothing but love for everything now. And we've talked about it.
Love it. I'm glad I
We've
got you
talked
guys to
about
do
it.
this.
All right.
Appreciate it.
And Ronnie, you've got a convert.
Yeah, I mean that he wants to hear it again. Just thinking about some of this stuff. I love it.
I want to listen to it with the Ronnie Barnett filter, is what I want.
Ooh, see?
There you go. There you go. Put some headphones on, Jeff. There's a lot going on this.
Okay,
Yeah.
Ronnie. So now I gotta ask.
Yeah.
What other album is underrated? When can we have you back and what are we gonna talk about?
Oh man, there's a lot, but
Vermilion.
sure. Yeah, I mean that's long awaited, right? Vermilion. I've always envisioned a grand, more of a like getting everybody involved. The A&R guy, first off, who I do know. What were they thinking? The band. Look, there he is. All right, great. He's already listening, Soraya, so we've lost him.
So we should just sign off at this point.
Yeah. And Vermilion, it's hard for me to really say that that's a great record, but I just appreciate it. But again, most people, including the band, do not. So Maybe I'll bring that
Oh.
up tomorrow during the Q&A, the inevitable Q&A. Let's talk about Vermilion, you guys. Oh, even though Lewis won't have an opinion, but
he has
Or
a,
he may have an opinion, just maybe
Yeah.
not one that needs
Well,
to be.
remember I asked him about it. And he said he hadn't heard it,
yeah. To this day. To this
and
day.
he's like, I certainly didn't buy it. Yeah, I haven't heard it. So.
Well, considering Jeff and I kind of clued him into certain things that were released, like the Salvation Army one,
Right. Yeah.
and he's all, nope, don't have it. No one sent it to me. I'm hoping that at least
Yeah.
they gave him Barocco to.
Well,
Yeah.
Danny told me a good story when when that live one on Burger came out or whatever, that they had gotten together for, like, I think one of the Wild Honey rehearsals or whatever, and Danny handed Lewis that record. Lewis looked at front and back and then gave it to somebody else right away, like he did.
Wow. No,
Yeah.
no.
He doesn't have which I got to respect that, actually. Yeah.
That's rough.
Me, I'm like, I need 10 copies.
Yeah.
But
Jeff, anything else about everything?
No, but I am gonna throw my headphones on as soon as we're done here, and I'm gonna listen to it again through the Ronnie Barnett filter.
And with that, folks, Ronnie Barnett rides off into the sunset, head held high, hat on.
There we go. Give the
Adios,
record another
muchacho.
chance, folks. All right. You guys be nice, and I'll see you soon.
Yeah, we'll
Thanks,
see.
Ronnie.
I will. Yeah, I'll see you. I mean, this isn't in real time, but yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow.
But yeah,
And I'm leaving the meeting now. All right.
all
Be
right.
nice. Be nice.
Thanks for doing this, Ronnie. We
Thanks for
appreciate
having
you.
me. Thanks for having me.
Thank you
Okay.
for everything.
It's a public service. All right.
Bye.
it. Bye-bye.
I love Ronnie Barnett,
I-
always.
Yeah.
And but look, he brought up some good points and things that we need to. I think they're valid points too in approaching this album. Yeah, I think it is one that gets lost in the shuffle for a lot of reasons,
Mhm.
but
Yeah,
there's a lot of good.
absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of good on here. There's some well-written songs for sure. And Ronnie's point about during that time in the 80s, late 80s, and Jim's quote that he shared, the production of a lot of those, the popular production of a lot of releases during that time doesn't really hold up for me. They have that big sound, a lot of reverb, and crystal clear, clean, and I think that was kind of a result of like the punk, post-punk kind of vibe. And then the pendulum swings again, and then after that, there's more indie sounding stuff that came later. So, and I know Ronnie likes to say that don't blame the production. There's good songs in there, but it's hard to get past some of that really clean production sound that the late 80s had for me. And I think a lot of releases suffer from it, but I would love to hear like a different production version of this, because the songs are there. Yeah.
Oh
And
yeah.
the performances, I have to give it to the band. Some of those performances are great, and their voice is always fantastic. So yeah, I like the record. It's just hasn't been one of my favorites.
Yeah. No, and I think that's fair to say too. I mean, there are some albums that just come out that, maybe just don't strike a chord. And one of the things we failed to say with Ronnie is, and to your point about the voices, the harmonies are sick on this album. I mean,
Yeah.
they are just so good. I mean, but they've always been good, right?
Every Bangles record.
I just love that. Their harmonies are out of this world.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah, and I'm glad they didn't end with this. For me, if this was their last album, that would be a tragedy. I know Ronnie's not a fan of Dull Revolution. I like that album quite a bit, but I think Sweetheart of the Sun is even a better record personally. And if that ends up being their last one, I wouldn't be surprised if it is. I like that they ended with that rather than everything.
I think we also have to be honest here, and that is, you know, the things that bring us to a band, that sound, if a band is a band in all its essence and spirit, they evolve and they try new things, and the sound goes through changes, which is fine.
Yep.
Yeah, I think as fans, you and I have talked about it often. Bands that we love, we're like, give us more. We still want to hear you. And some bands are ready to do that and some aren't. And that's why I would hate to think, oh, the Bangles won't put out another album of originals. But if it is, so be it. I think they've given us quite a good array of albums and songs and sounds.
Agreed.
And I mean, but I always hold out hope. I mean, look at Dream Syndicate. After how many years of zero activity, then they're like, bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
And Rain Parade, is going to be giving us a brand new album very soon. And in fact, on May the 4th, I mean, it'll be too late for our listeners, but if you've been following the band's page or Matt Pucci's page, advertising the show up in San Francisco, which is the first of what we hope are many more.
Yes.
To give us access to these new songs and the band and everything.
Yep.
Long Riders have done that, so you never know.
Never know. Yep.
Never know. Oh, this was a lot of fun. I think we need another Ronnie Barnett series of Hear Me Out.
Underrated. I would definitely like to participate in those or listen to those for sure.
Perfect. I think we've all got at least an album or 10 that we can bring up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyways, all right, mi gente. Agruviar.
Groove on, Paisley people.